In this video, we're going to look at finding the domain and range of radical equations or square root functions when you're just given the equation. To find the domain, you're going to have to write out and sometimes solve an inequality. Here's how you write this inequality. You're going to take the radicand and you're going to set it greater than or equal to 0. Remember, the radicand is a value up under the radical symbol. So for this example, I need to find what the domain is. So I'm going to take what's up under the radical symbol and I'm going to set it greater than or equal to 0. I now have what the domain is. The domain can be any value that's equal to or greater than 0. Let's look at this example. This example, I need to figure out what the domain is. So I take what's up under the radical symbol, the radicand, and I set it greater than or equal to 0. Unlike the other one, this one needs to be solved. So I solve this by subtracting 12 from both sides. And then dividing both sides by 4. I now have the domain for this radical equation. The domain is everything along the x-axis greater than or equal to -3. Next example. To find the domain, I take what's up under the radical symbol, the radicand, and I set it greater than or equal to 0. I need to solve this. I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides. Now I need to divide both sides by -5. This is a situation where you need to remember what we've done in the past. When you solve inequalities and you divide both sides by a negative number, this inequality symbol switches around. So now it's less than or equal to. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So make sure you remember that when you divide by a negative number or multiply by a negative number, the inequality symbol is switched around. Now I need to find the range. The way you find the range is you want the radicand to be 0 right here. So you'll find whatever number x needs to be to make the radicand 0. You would plug it in there. Finding this first number right here is going to be your first step for finding the range. This is going to be like the starting point. For these problems, it's almost always going to be this number out here. So I could go through the process on this next one of plugging in or figuring out what number is going to make the radicand 0 and go through all the math, but in the end, it's probably going to be this number right here on the end. For this one, my starting point on my y is right here. When I don't see a number out here, what number is out there? What number represents nothing? That would be 0. This is your first step, figuring out what number your y is going to be. Now you need to figure out if it's going to be greater than that number or less than that number. You look at the coefficient of the radical to tell whether or not it's going to be less than or greater than that number. If the coefficient, and remember the coefficient's that number in front of the radical symbol, if the coefficient is negative, it's going to be less than. It's going to be numbers less than that. If the coefficient is positive, it's going to be numbers greater than that. Here are some examples of this. First thing I need to do is figure out what number it is. It's y and -4, and now I need to see if it's going to be a greater than or less than symbol. I'll look at the number in front of the radical. It's positive, so it's going to be greater than or equal to -4. That's what my range is. My range is y is greater than or equal to -4. So I'll come down to the next one. I need to figure out what my range is. Range is represented by y. It's normally this number out here, -7. Now I need to see if it's going to be less than or equal to -7 or greater than or equal to -7. This coefficient is negative, so it's going to be less than or equal to -7. I need to figure out what the range is for this equation. Y represents my range. It's usually this number out here. And now I need to figure out whether it's less than or greater than this number. The coefficient on this is negative. That means it's going to be less than or equal to. I need to find the range on this one. Y represents my range. I don't see a number out here. The number that represents nothing is 0. Now I need to figure out if it's going to be less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. I look at the coefficient, the number in front. The number in front right here is a 1. That's a positive 1. So it's going to be greater than or equal to 0. That's how you find the range for these radical equations.